Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michaeldseville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
All right. Just in case y'all was wondering, me and Mike was having our own little private conversation in the background while we wait for this thing to load up. It started to get deep back there, brother. Oh, man.
You know how we get down. Sometimes we got to be like, let's just save it for the show. Let's save it for the show. But I think we have so much to give and such an outpouring that, I mean, regardless of how much we talk, we still can get on here. And I'm telling you guys, you will get some gems. Speaking of that, I'm Michaeldseville, the gem from the South, your real estate guy here in live. And then you got my brother, the co-host with the most over there, Joel Simmons with the Tenacity Foundation, rocking and rolling in rare form. Was that a 3-pointer? It looked like it was a 3-pointer.
That was a 3-pointer. Matter of fact, it was a 3-pointer. Plus, they touched my elbow. You know what that means?
Nothing but net.
Got me one more on it. That was a 4-pointer, y'all. Let's get it,
guys. Community Beacon. Every Friday, 6:30, we are here. Consistency, persevering, making it happen any kind of way. Last week, the brother was on the road and stopped over and set up shop so we can get this thing done. And now he's back in the studio. I'm back in the studio. We're making it happen. Let's get to the housekeeping, and then we can get to closing out this month. That's been the theme for today. Let's see. We got Mondays.
Mondays.
Mondays. What it takes, guys. Check us out on Monday. Me at Monday, 9:00. Check me out. Drop in gems. We're talking about awareness, acceptance, and adjustment.
Oh,
I'm loving it. And last week I delved into habits. Habits came up, and I'm gonna tell you about the synchronicities and just what I'm given to speak about is like I'm thinking about it, and then when I start to get like these different confirmations, like I'm getting confirmations, and right before I got on the show I was going to talk about something, and then all of a sudden the habits part came up and talking about developing some first off deconstructing habits, and then secondly, how do we replace those habits? Because we don't just want to get rid of them and then have a hole or a vacuum. You know what I mean? One of the laws of the universe is that the universe loathes vacuums, right? We don't want that to happen, but we want to replace it with healthier and healthier habits and start to master those healthy habits. So check me out on Mondays at 9:00, What It Takes. Then we have on Wednesdays at 12:30. Okay, you know who it starts with? It starts with me. It starts with me. 12:30, brother. Who will you be interviewing this upcoming Wednesday?
It's part 2 of Joey. Yeah.
That guy gives me energy. He gives me energy when I'm looking at this photo and I want to jump up and down when I see it.
Yeah, you should see how we when we're together, we light the place up.
I can't.
The IFGT program. That, you know what? I think if y'all watch that, it's a good one. It's a good one because something in that episode, I think it was that episode that happened, and Joe was like, "You got me right there." It was like, "Oh man, that was real. It was real." He took a minor step back and he thought about that thing, and then he was like, "Oh man, that's real. It's real." So it got kind of deep in that conversation. I remember that, and I just enjoy. I love for these people to come on. Listen, y'all. Oh, let me tell you something exciting about the It Starts With Me. In the new year, we have a whole brand new plan. So just wait for it. You know I'm 4 months out, 3.5 months out. But listen, we are building up something that is going to be absolutely magnificent. Just wait until we start putting together. We're gonna have multiple guests. We're looking into like a round table type of thing, and having round table months and whatnot. So this idea is percolating, and I'm putting it out there. So I hold myself to it because this is real. So can't wait. It starts with me. It starts with me on fire. It's gonna be on fire. We're gonna take it to a whole nother level. I'm gonna have to get Mike back on the show, get B on the show, get Lou on the show, get Chris on the show, and then we're gonna get a whole bunch of other brothers like Coach T. We bring Coach T back, but we want to have a group of individuals. Maybe we'll bring back Coach Liv, and just have an all-out conversation round table. So be on the watch. Coming soon to a YouTube near you.
Check it out. It's gonna be fire. And you mentioned somebody in there. Let me talk about Beethoven. Shouts out to Beethoven. Beethoven has the Hustlers. He has a Hustlers testimony show that drops. It's like every week, every 2 weeks or something like that. Awesome show, guys. So if you get a chance to check out the Hustlers testimony as well, I shouts out to that. I'm saying all the brothers is out here really moving. I seen Lou promoting his business, Palm Beach Protection. He's teaching if you need to learn firearm safety, etc. Why not learn from the best? I saw Lou out there promote. He got people promoting it military in between the meetings. Like it's nonstop. So check Lou out, Palm Beach Protection. If you want to learn about gun safety, you want to go get your concealed weapons license, etc. You want to learn from a top-notch person out there, go check out my guy Lou Moroto. I really want to put this up here. So if we can get a reminder, I can put this up towards the end of the show. Hustlers testimony with listen, man, I love the brothers from the Gerald A. Williams class. Like that golf class is something else, guys. So watch out. Lots of things going on for us. Friday. It culminates back on Friday, 6:30. We are back in the building. We are closing out this month. This month has been about timing. So what we said, it's a sign of the times. The brother's a genius over there. Yeah. It's a sign of the times. And my Lord, this week has been one for the books. And you know what? And I think it has to do with just the awareness. We speak about awareness often, but just being in the moment. We talk about being in the moment, and that moment equals your power. So time equals power, right? Time is your presence. So having that presence of in the moment, and then that leads into the power. When we spoke about that 2 weeks ago, it's been ruminating. That's what I want to call it. I want to say the word has been ruminating with me. I know it's been ruminating with you because I've been seeing it dropping all over social media on IG. I think it was on TikTok. I think I seen it on Facebook. We need to have t-shirts because that's a mic drop all within itself. How much power that gives you as being for your accountability, for your to build up momentum, to become unstuck, like to have that presence and to be in the moment. I think by far for this entire, for this month is what has really been, I want to say, molding the way that I've been going about my movements. What about you, brother? Like, what's some of the things that really struck you?
Lots of things. First off, I want to say this about Beethoven's the Hustler's testimony. Brother Man's testimony, or I can't remember who interviewed him, but the results went through the roof. I wish I could pull it up. I can't remember. I got it on my phone. Through the roof, Mike. I mean, he has so many viewers. It was thousands and thousands and thousands of viewers. I just thought, yeah, that's it. So many of them. I just thought that was awesome. So I mean, you know, the sign of the times. You know, you all know that my mentor, that whom I deeply love, Daddy Bailey, he's been preaching it's your season, and I feel it. I feel that. I feel it. It's really, really powerful to me that it's your season. And so I claim that. I take that into my heart, take it into my chest, because the thing about it is like we have been doing this. You know, this is episode 51. Is that right? 51. And when I
51.
was talking to my wife last week, I was like, listen, we've been doing this for years. She's like, no, not really. I said, Mike and I, this is our 50th episode. We started a month before that.
Shouts out to Kathy.
Yeah, yeah. We started a month before that, you know, and that's not including some of the other stuff that we were doing before that. But this, I'm talking about just me and Mike rolling together, you know, next week. 52nd episode. That's a full year in episodes, y'all. You know, whether we got 100, we got 1,000, or we got 10,000. I'm gonna tell you something. It's on the way. Why? Because it's a sign of the times. Yeah. You know, like listen, y'all. We didn't just last. We are thriving in this thing. You know what I mean? Like we may be putting it together and stuff like that, and running and moving, you know, and shaking and grooving, you know, but that's because we're working. We're putting this thing we're putting it to work. You know, this is a vehicle, and we're driving this baby every single day. You know, and so I think that that's really important when you start to think about a sign of the times and how that affects you. Remember, time is presence, and that's what makes it powerful. What makes it powerful is that you understand presence in mind. You can use that time to do great, great, great things, or you can sit back, relax, couch potato it off, binge on some TV show.
Hey.
Listen, don't get me wrong there, Mike.
Hey.
Don't fire off at me.
I'm getting convicted over here.
Don't fire off on me, because I like a good movie too, you know. I have not been sitting, Mike. I don't even know, man. If you would have asked me what was the last thing I watched, I have to tell you Bluey.
Bluey? What's that?
Bluey. So Bluey is it's a kids show, right?
Oh yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, so it's in Australia, so they got these awesome accents, and Bluey is this little blue dog with it's a girl. And then she has a younger sibling that's a girl also named Bingo. And they got two parents that love them to death. And they're always available, making things happen. It teaches great lessons and everything. But the episodes last about 3 to 7 minutes, something like that, like 5 to 7 minutes, you know. And so my little boy, you know, he'll put it on.
Let's go ahead and blame this one on Jonah.
Yeah, they'll put it on, and I'll be like, I listen to it, I'm like, man, this thing is funny, Mike.
Yeah. That's why I said let's go ahead and blame it on Jonah first. I like the preface, Jonah.
Hey, you know what? If the shoe fits, wear it with pride. You know what I mean? So I like it, you know. And I'm talking to guys at the fire department, guys with children. They're like, yeah, Bluey. Bluey is awesome, y'all. But that's all the time I got for right now. I'll sit down with my kid for 5-10 minutes and we just hanging out. Throw some Bluey up on the TV screen. Yeah, it's so lighthearted. It's so fun. Everything always works out. There's no shooting up, bang, bang. Nobody's dying. Nobody's cussing. Nobody's fussing. There ain't no issues with women or men or other strange phenomena like you see in the news and see in real life. It's just lighthearted laughter. And I like that. I don't want to deal with nothing when I'm taking a break. I want to deal with other people's garbage. I just want to enjoy my time. So Bluey, there it is.
You got a little aggressive at the end there, making us watch. And you know what? We need to be as aggressive with our time as that. Aggressive with our and what's that kind of called? I guess someone would kind of call it somewhat of escapism. Like you don't want to deal, you don't want to deal with everything. And and I know how much information you're taking in. I know how much work you're doing, the work that you're putting in. I'm gonna tell you what a lot of people don't know is how much information that they're taking in, unawares to them. You guys are
Mm,
just, you guys, yeah, y'all talk. We often talk about like, what is it, Siri and all these little things. Like they're listening, they're listening. You know what? Your self-conscious is listening. Your subconscious is listening
yo.
too. So that being said, that's why you do have to get aggressive with what you put into your mind, how you exactly are spending your time. Like start to track those things. You don't have to
Mm,
be detailed and just you don't have to be crazy about it. Just start to track it somewhat. Like how much time am I spending on social media? Whether it is Instagram or whether it's what is it? What's the other one? Facebook, whatever, TikTok, whatever it is. How much time I spend on that? My advice in regards to media would definitely be YouTube. How much time am I if I were to call it advice? And I say that because 9 times out of 10, what I'm watching on YouTube is informational and it's that, but there's times when I'm using that time when I should be actually not be taking in this information, right?
mm.
Because I really get deep into things, like really trying to pick things apart. That's the analytical side of me. When that happens, like I'm really deep diving into it. And so sometimes when I'm at the gym or doing something where I should just be probably just be letting my mind go, i'm I'm deep into this. You know what I mean? So that what that happens is it's not necessarily giving my time, my mind a break. I might not be taking in a break. But if I were to shout out a show, it would be Game of Thrones. I think I watched it for the
Ah.
second time. I watched it for
Oh
the
man.
And I watched it for the second time, and the second time was better than the first time. Game of Thrones is a
Bottom.
deep, it's a deep show, man. It's a deep show. So that if I were to, if I had to say I was watching, it wasn't Bluey, which I probably should have been watching. It was Game of Thrones, man. You know what,
Bottom.
brother? Today was interesting.
All right, talk to
Today
me.
was
What
interesting.
was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Today was interesting. We're gonna get back into this time thing, the sign of the times, right?
Well, I mean, but you just were
Yeah, yeah,
talking about it. That
yeah,
is the
yeah,
sign of the times. When you
yeah.
start talking about the cell phones and the social media and the YouTube and how it's sucking us up into this other world, and we don't even realize it. That's the sign of the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't even
Yo,
realize it. Lil Duval, the comedian, says social media, guys, take it for what it's worth. He said it's the new crack epidemic. He said
ooh,
because people are on it and they don't even understand how damaging it actually is. Because a lot of us aren't doing it in moderation, and even if we're doing it in moderation, it skews our thoughts and views. We're looking at social media, we're seeing people's great times, and we're comparing that to our tough times or our rough times. And anytime you start to do comparisons, anytime you start to look at, uh, you know, skewed comparisons at that, like and what they show you what you want to see. You know what I mean? Like you go in there, if you're searching for something, one thing about this Al Gore's internet, you're gonna find it. If you're searching for something to confirm a belief or a thought that you have,
is there?
somebody somebody's talking about it. Somebody got the facts to prove it, whether or not these are actual facts or these are just based on opinions or whatever. So it's an interesting thing. But I did want to let me back up. I want to talk about today. Today was an interesting day. It's August 26th, guys. This is our last episode of the month. So we're closing this thing out, right? This has been a tumultuous week, I guess, in society. One of the things that I didn't think it was going to be this big of a deal, but it turned out to be a hot topic, was student loan forgiveness. You know,
Mm,
there's a $10,000 forgiveness for people, cancellation. It's not forgiveness, excuse me, cancellation. There's a $20,000 cancellation, and that seems somewhat seemingly split
mm.
our country once again. And so that has been interesting and a lot to talk about, and just some thoughts that I had surrounding that. Did we talk about that, brother?
I want to. Let's go. Let's go.
Did we talk about it?
We
So we
did
got.
talk about it, but I want to
Oh,
talk
okay, we
about
did. We did
it
talk about it a little bit. I do
again.
want to just brush off. Jay-Z dropped a new verse this morning. that was just probably one of his top 3 verses that he's ever dropped. I think it's so awesome to see a brother gracefully age, especially in our culture where
Mm.
after 25 they just want to throw you away like you're old. You're old now. Definitely 30, and this guy is in his 50s, and he's still making music that moves people. I mean, I was getting texts earlier this morning in regards to Jay-Z dropping that verse that I thought was done so well. And if anyone actually wants to understand rap as an art form and as social commentary and as how, just telling a story, ridiculous. So I
Mm.
listened to that. And a lot of stuff that he kind of spoke about, and which I want to go back into, I want to tie it back in, it was things on closure. It was about the progression. It was about being in certain moments, not thinking you're gonna make it out, and then you look back, hindsight 2020, and everything led to this certain I wouldn't even call it his pinnacle, but this moment where this guy he's a billionaire. Not only is he a billionaire, he created 2 billionaires, as he spoke about in the song. And then he even brought LeBron James into it, saying LeBron James is affiliated with his organization. So he made 4 billionaires, right? Or three other billionaires coming from this group. And he's like, you gave the right people money, is what he said. They finally gave the right people money in order to make these changes. But it came from a lot of these mistakes and things that he had to learn from his past and he had to overcome, etc. So this thing went on. I mean, it was awesome. So now it gave me so much motivation today that I was like, you know what? There's a couple of things that I just need to close out that I've been putting off.
Mm.
And putting them off because the pain of the unforeseen seemed tougher than the pain that I was going through. Now, this is when they talk about the coward dies 1,000 deaths, because every day I'm thinking about this thing. I'm thinking about this thing. When should I move forward? When should I push the button? When should I take the next step? When should I move? And here's the craziest thing: out of all the things I closed off today, there was one phone call that I did not want to make. I mean, I'm just in there like, oh, I'll do it later. It was, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And I just pushed it off. And I was doing all these other painful things out and about, doing things that I needed to get done. And finally, right around 5:30, I was like, all right, let me make this phone call before I get on the show. I made the phone call. And when I'm telling you, it was the easiest phone call of the day.
How about
Might have
that?
been, might have been the easiest phone call I had all week. And I mean, just so pleasant, right? Just a pleasant, great conversation. I got to say what I needed to say. That person had said what they needed to say, and it ended on a great, with great accord. It was what it was, right? But it's the fact of just putting this thing off, and not only just putting this thing off and knowing better, because I'm here telling you guys all the time, like, we need to know better. But here's the thing: is that every time the fear or the anxiety of it, like the fear was mostly like based upon the past. That's what I was basing it upon experience, right? That's where the fear came from. The anxiety was coming from not actually doing the action. You spoke about it earlier, brother. People being couch potatoes, etc. Like, it comes from, so not, putting it off. So every time, like, we can sit down and watch Bluey, but then if we put something off because we're trying to escape from Bluey, when Bluey's done, that thing it's still gonna be on our mind. And I don't know how many times these certain thoughts come up, these things that we kind of put off. So that's the anxiety of now I gotta take a deep breath. I'm meditating and I'm doing all this stuff to relinquish this anxiety, but the anxiety can be the symptom can be taken care of if we take care of the problem. The problem requires the action. The action was just picking up the phone and having a conversation with a person, right? And just taking that action. It's so important that we recognize the time equals the power, and being present in the time is the power, because the present, what you say, brother, is when you can take action. It's when you can move, you could actually move the needle forward. It's like taking the action now. I think today was so powerful for me, just based upon that. Like, I think I closed out about 3, 4 things that I had put in the future, like, I'll get to it when I get to it, kind of deal. And now a lot of that stuff is no longer hanging over my head, man. So for me, this time conversation was well timed.
That's funny. Well played. So what you're talking about, brother, and I feel because like we talk so much, I feel like I know what you're talking about. But I guess it's just a few things, because this is a very deep conversation, multi-tiered conversation, and dealing with multiple levels of mind, body and spirit, and actually soul, and how your soul is settling, how your soul is settling, how you're living, the settling of your life inside of all these different types of atmospheres, or being composed in these different types of atmospheres. And it's a huge conversation, because the thing about it is if you come too early, if you speak too early, if you do too early, if you're out of sync with time, if the synchronicity is wrong and you show up too early, you can't do anything.
Right.
If you show up too late, what needed to be done is already done. And I love the way they do this, like in movies and stuff like that. You ever watch some of these time traveler movies, and they time travel and then they show up, and they're just too early, and the person that they need to deal with is a kid. And now if they introduce themselves to them, then it changes the entire spectrum, right? Or if they show up too late, then the deed has already been done. And they're like, I missed my opportunity. So not to say that that's always the way it is, but it's about development, and what it takes inside of us, especially when we're dealing with person to person, 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, 1-to-4, 1 to community, whatever it is there needs to be this graduating period inside of us. We all don't take the time to do that.
Yeah.
Just going back to the whole couch potato thing, knowing that you should be doing something else, knowing that I should be spending that time with my son, that when I am with my son, that it cannot just be about Bluey, but that I need to interject certain types of conversation in there. I need to create that conversation. I can't wait for him to create it. I need to go ahead and dig deep sometime, I remember my buddy Hollis, his mother would tell me about his mother. He said, boy, when mama got me in that car, that's what it was. Because it won't nothing else. It wasn't, oh, let me turn my jam on, like this type of thing. No, it was serious talk. It was like, what's going on at school? What you doing? And it was serious. It was drill time. And then so I found out the reason why she did it. And the reason why she did it, she said, because you can't go nowhere. What you gonna do? Jump out the car while I'm driving? You can't go anywhere. So you're gonna talk with me, because she'll drive around the corner. She'll get on the highway. You're gonna talk. And so if you ever want to get out of this car, besides when we go pick up fuel, you're gonna say something. We're gonna hash this thing out. And that is powerful, because we're talking about dealing with everything that's on the table. So many times we get to the table, and if it's food, it's like, I don't eat that. I don't like that. I don't want that. And we baby up. Like, nah, that's not what I eat. And as parents, we look at our children, we're like, I don't care what you eat. You're going to eat this food because that's what I put on the table. That's the way it's going to work right here. But then again, when we get to become adults, we just do like this. We're like, I'm not ready to read that book. And that's it. We just move it just like that. Maybe that's the book we need to be reading. It's like, oh, you know what? This paperwork, I'll deal with that later.
Deal with it when it's later, right?
And before you know it, paperwork, book. And then the time comes for you to deal with whatever that situation is, and you don't have the book knowledge and you haven't signed the application. So you can't apply what you have, and you had it all the time. That's why this month has been so powerful. So when I'm listening to you, brother, that's what I'm hearing. It's like, it's not that, it could have been the last time. It's like we have to take the time to build ourselves mentally,
right,
spiritually, and sometimes we think that it's the right time, but it's not. Just going back
Right.
to time traveler, sometimes we feel like it's the right time, but when we speak, we destroy because it wasn't the right time. Our mind wasn't right. Our mind wasn't in the game. Our heart wasn't in the game. Our spirit was all off. The flow was all off. You were talking about the flow either a couple weeks ago or last month. The flow was all off. We wasn't ready for this one. How long did we have to prepare? All my life. But did I use the time to prepare? So, and I think that that's the powerful thing. You remember we talked about it maybe last week, and we were talking, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about time is presence. When that becomes a powerful statement because you can live in whatever time you design. In the book of Hebrews, it says Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. Now, y'all be easy with me, but I'm gonna say it anyhow because I thought that this was just Jesus. But remember, Jesus thought it not robbery to be equal with the Father, but not greater. And in the end, the Father gave him glory on the earth. He said, I have glorified thee and yet will glorify you again. And then after he died and was resurrected, he said he brought him up even higher. And then he put everything underneath his feet. So what exactly am I saying? Well, if Jesus Christ can be yesterday, today, and forever, then what about those of us that are created in the same image? How does that happen? Number one, time has nothing to do with body. Elements affect the body in a period of time, calculation. In a period of calculation, elements affect the body. But the body does not control time. So what are you getting at to bring this to closer to a close? All right, so number one, the soul was not inside of the body when the body was developed. God made the body out of the dust of the earth. And then after that, he said he breathed the breath of life into him. Later on, he said, all souls are mine. So the breath of life is a soul. We talked about this before. The breath of life is a soul. That's inside the body. The soul lives forever. Ever. However long you can think about it, soul is forever. Because God said the soul is mine. But ashes to ashes is what we say at the funeral because the body must return to the ground. There's a penalty against our bodies. So all bodies die. But the soul lives forever. Now, you may have a different belief. That's fine with me. All right. So then what are you talking about? How does that have to deal with time? Well, when the mind, which is connected to the soul and the spirit, takes time to meditate, to go deep within inside the inner man, you have the ability to begin to walk in spaces of time that you never even thought about until that moment. So that means I can legitimately go into my meditation, my prayer, and I can start to relive my life as an adolescence. I can be taken away. Your body will show the results of it physiologically. If you start to remember, that pretty girl that you were so in love with, your body will show physiological proof that your mind has transported you back in time. The same thing happens forward thinking. If you think about something that scared you, a movie or something, and you relive it, you have an out-of-body experience. Your hair starts to stand up on the side of your arm because your body has a physiological difference. It shows that you have just transported your mind. So when I say that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever, this is why time equals presence. And there's power in that statement because I can go backwards in time. I don't need to go backwards in time to tell the 18-year-old me what I need to do. I can go backwards in time, talk to the 18-year-old me and figure out what I need to do today to make my, 20 years later, man, even better. That's the power of time.
That let me break it down for you, guy, because that was really deep. The brother went to talking about visualization, being able to actually sit in the visualization. The brother spoke a little bit about healing. Going back that 18-year-old, going back and having a conversation with that younger Mike, that younger Joe, having that conversation, letting them know it's okay, letting them asking them questions and and giving them the answers. And then you start to talk about visualizing your future. That has to do with like manifestation. So now you start to manifest what it is that and this is what they talk about. I don't care how they slice it. You know what I mean? Like this, it all comes back to that visualization and being in that present moment. I love the when you gave the information, the example of the physiological, being able to affect your physiological part. The mind is so powerful, and they're doing studies on it now about the way that you change your body, the way chemicals change in your body, the way you can change certain cells just based upon visualizing and breathing. Like that, those are like the two most important things that you can do in your life. And it, especially to where we are now, it's almost like taking practice now. Like you got to get to practicing it because we're so out of it. We're given so much outside stimulation. We believe that that's what it's about. It's about this outside stimuli. So we tend to be in more reactive mode than what is it, proactive.
Proactive.
Yeah, we tend to be more reactive than proactive. When you're being proactive, you are in the present moment dealing with things in that time to time basis. This is some deep stuff, man.
It's a sign of the time.
Yeah.
This is a sign of the time, for us to have conversations like this, especially with the impact of social media upon the world, and I mean, let's not get it all mixed up, right? Because the internet, social media, I mean, listen, if it wasn't for the internet, we wouldn't have had social media, right? So we're talking about 1993, introduction of internet into everyone's household. Maybe your family didn't get it into 1998. Maybe it was 2002, but it was on and popping. And what ended up happening? We talked about this before. The theory of compound interest by Einstein, the law of 72. But when you change that and you start to use the same theory with what is happening in multiple different realms of the world, you start using that in internet, the compound theory in the internet, and how that the interest of it doubles. And that's kind of funny because interest, it doubles. People have greater interest inside of the internet as the power and the impact of the internet begins to double and double. It's doubling so fast now that the internet is far past us. There's studies right now where they're talking about AI, and I don't know if I want to go into this different type of conversation, but AI is such a huge thing that people are creating AI structures and beings to take the place of individuals. Like, where on earth are we going? This conversation is very much so appropriate, whether somebody that's watching wants to hear that type of stuff or not, Mike.
I saw an AI rapper the other day. They just signed the first AI rapper, and then they dropped him because for whatever reason. But yeah, AI, they've been talking about it for a while and how advanced, this intelligence, is. So yeah, the compounding of the internet, etc. I think the more so, and I think, you know what, to be honest with you, just to be in this positive force, because I'm not saying the internet and social media is all gloom and doom. I just think that, yeah, it's not. It's tools, right? And so it's about getting better with the tools and being understanding how to work these different tools. And here's the thing: is that we weren't necessarily bred for a lot of these different things that are going on. Like the human technology has surpassed and moved so fast that we're still becoming adjusted to it. So we're still learning as we go along. However, once again, it's the awareness and the acceptance part of it. Like this thing is happening. Like as fathers, we need to know that this thing is happening. It's happening at this pace, and we need to be aware so that we can help to guide our families in the right direction, or the best direction that we can see fit. And then just taking time away from it, because when I say take time away from the technology and actually understand, get it, go within. You spoke about that a little bit earlier, and going within ourselves and having these conversations with ourselves without the outer influence of what's going on, this extra stimulus that's going on. Great. Listen, internet is a great tool. Without the internet, you and I would not be here having this conversation, blasting out to X amount of platforms with the ability to touch, reach, you know, millions of people, right? So, not we're not it's not just a down thing, it's just about becoming aware and making the adjustment to say, okay, when, what kind of information are we looking for? And more so just to protect what it is that we have going on.
That's perfect. That's perfect what you just said. It's about increasing the awareness of the individual and taking the time to actually do that. I think you mentioned that too. Because like when you think about the internet was already inside the government. It was in the government. It was being utilized, and it was kind of like dropped on society. But that's not the same thing as some of the other things. Like if you look at Henry Ford, you know, and he starts to create this mechanical wheeled structure that's able to carry people without a horse. The term horsepower arrives with inside of an engine. How much horsepower does that thing have? Is it 2 horses or 5 horses? No, this is 100 horses. What? 100 horses? Man, okay, all right, 100 horses. I want to see that thing. And many people are like, no, same thing, right, brothers, But in those days, you had people that were witnessing something just happen, and they're learning about it, and they're either choosing to agree or disagree. Now, you weren't able to stop the production of something that was moving forward with that type of pace and that type of drive, because, Henry Ford had that type of drive. He had the quintessential drive. He had exactly what it takes to be able to move an unknown to a known. And for those of y'all who are dealing with prospecting, that's like you deal in the unknown category. That's where you have the cream of the crop. And he was in the unknown. But when he took the unknown and he made it known, then all of a sudden, all unknown wanted to have a piece of the known, because that's the way he presented it. Same thing happened with the Wright brothers. Everyone doesn't get the financing that they need to in the very beginning. Many people go broke. Many people go near broke. Many people got to give it all. It is what it is. The difference is, though, is that they had a choice. Internet being dropped was more like something like, here you go, pow. So, not saying that that's a bad or a good thing, because we've got a lot of benefits, right? But here it is, as me and Mike and you and yours, when we give something to our children and we don't understand what it is, maybe it's not the best idea to just say, looks good, here it goes, pow.
Yeah, because everybody else is doing
research.
Got to. You have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant with it all. Man, guys, I want to get back. Did we talk about the student loans yet?
How do we get way out of here,
man? There's a shaky transition. Did we talk about the student loans yet? My Lord, sign of the times, guys. I guess this has to do somewhat with the information and misinformation, etc. I guess my struggle with it all is the lack of research done by people, and then the opinions being put on, not now opinions or whatever it is law, and then a lot of these things is politically motivated. A lot of opinions are politically motivated. So from a person who I tend to deem myself as a unbiased, I tend to I want to question anything that comes before me, and to see the pros and the cons as it is. But I would have never thought that, sign of the times, that there would have been this much of an uproar. There's been a couple of topics that seem to have a lot of uproar this year that I didn't think was going to necessarily be such a huge uproar. So and maybe I'm just out of touch. May- maybe I'm just out of touch. But there's certain things that I just didn't know that were such a we're
Hot
such
button.
on the yeah we're such on the hot button to people in their minds. With the student loan situation, I did the numbers, guys. I didn't just speak out of nothing. But we got a situation where our current president, and I don't think it's necessarily passed yet, but it's on the table. It's almost as good as gone, supposedly. Is that there's up to $20,000 for those of you who don't know. $20,000 is on the table to be canceled for student loan debt. Somebody said we are old, not we. Don't put me in that, Anna. So there's up to $20,000 worth of school loan debt that's going to be canceled. That's going to affect around 27 million people who are in debt at least around $20,000. Um, who put this on? I love it. Um,
That's
and
right.
Good job, Anna. So now we're talking about cutting the student loan debt, which is at about 1.7 trillion. To We're cutting about 300, around $400 million worth of it, between 400 and 500 million. So we're talking about close to a third of the student loan debt that will be canceled and forgiven. Proponents or people who are against this argument or against this bill are stating, it's not like they don't want to put in their taxes to pay off other people's school loan debt. Of course, you have people who just paid it off last year, looking around like, man, I could have,
It is what it is.
yeah, I could have waited a little bit longer to pay and got connected to some of this stuff. So those were some of the things that I saw in the forefront. I don't want to pay for somebody else's debt that they incurred. The second thing was I just paid off mine's. It's not. It's unfair, right? To me, I don't know. Did you hear anything else? Any other arguments against the cancellation of the debt?
Yeah, I haven't even researched it other than our conversation. I was glad you brought it up.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but
go
I
ahead.
think it's a powerful topic, though, Mike. I
Yeah.
definitely got a thought about it.
It's interesting because I'm just watching, and I did say a joke on Facebook, and I had someone unfollow me because of the joke. And the funny part about it was I've never interacted with this person in my life, and they said first they said something about not being friends, and I'm like, when I went to reply back, that's when I noticed I was banned from this person. I went to reply back like
That
I
ain't
don't
just unfollow, brother.
yeah. I think she what I don't know what she did. She unfollowed whatever she did. She banned me or whatever. But I don't even recall this lady telling me happy birthday. So I don't, it's not like I'm not necessarily gonna miss her. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, I'm not gonna necessarily miss her. Maybe she could have been the key to solving all my problems. I just didn't know about it amongst my friends. But she was very adamant. Then of course I had a couple of people that I do know that aren't necessarily for it, that mentioned, one of the things that they had issues around was, you know one person said that it's selfish. So I'm like, okay, so you want people who are about to get $20,000 worth of debt canceled, you want them to tell the government, no, don't do it. We want to keep our debt. We want to keep this $20,000 debt, which for student loans, they only go away when you die. Like, you can't file bankruptcy, you can't do much. Like, it's always there.
Mm,
I like to dive deeper into the conversation because the student loans are only a symptom of the issue. Like, why don't
mm.
we talk about the collusion amongst colleges and universities? And I love you guys. I love FAMU. I love you too. That's where I graduated from. But there was some form of collusion to more than triple the amount that people will go to college for since 1980, the amount of tuition and books, etc., has more than tripled since 1980. So within, what is it, 30, 40 years? Oh man, 40, close to 40
Very
years,
true.
it's
Yeah.
more than tripled, and there's no signs of it slowing down. And books, the cost of it wasn't because of inflation. It was because college was turned into a business. And not only that, it tripled, and they were telling you that because essentially up until maybe, I want to say maybe 3 4 years ago, you had to have a degree to do almost anything. Like, I want to say, if you wanted to be a key holder, manager, upper management at McDonald's, you had to have, and I'm not saying that to say anything negative about this vocation, but for you to have to go to have a 2 or 4 year degree, I think that was a little bit, uh, you know, maybe that's a little bit too much. That for you to go and incur 20, 30, $40,000 in college debt to come back and make to come back and make what, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, maybe $14 an hour. Like, that's crazy. I remember when I first got out of college. I hate to ramble, but here's my story. Went and got my bachelor's degree, had it in my hand, and I went to my first job interview, and they loved me. And then I was like, "Well, how much is the pay?" And I can never forget. They was like, "It's $27,500." I said, "Excuse," I said, "Excuse me, come again?" Now, at the time, I had been making more money I used to breed dogs back then, so I was making way more money by breeding dogs and in my other entrepreneurial ventures than I was gonna be doing making 27.5. And you wanted me to be there 8 9 hours a day, because I count lunchtime. I really count the commute too. So I want to say you spend about 10 hours, in and out preparing for work. Not to mention the Sunday night dread that you have. If it's a Monday through Friday, Sunday night you spend the last 4 or 5 hours wondering where the weekend's gone, and how can you prolong it? You know what I mean? Because that job is coming up on Monday. So for 2017, so 27.5. So essentially, like the rate of return on it isn't necessarily there. And still, I'm in the somewhat financial business, or at least I get to see people's financials, people who are looking to buy homes, etc. And you got people who have went to school, have incurred 80, 90, 100, over $100,000 worth of debt, and they're making less than $60,000. Right. So, like, these numbers don't add up. I would almost say, I know I'm rambling, guys, but I got a point. I would almost say that it's at times, okay, so you incurred this debt. It might be fiscally irresponsible to pay off some of these student loans because of the interest rate that was attached to them. So you got these interest rates that was some people had 1.7% interest rate if it was a public school loan, 2.5%. For me personally, if you got if you have less than 3, 4, really less than 5% of in regards to borrowing money, then there's really no need for you to make a huge payoff of it. You know what I mean? Unless it's just bogging you down, mentally. But normally what is it, 7%? You got the inflation is 7%. So if you're borrowing money at 4%, you're still ahead of the game because it's borrowed money. It's not yours. I'm just giving you a quick thought process. Now, the reason why I always say don't take on more debt than you can stand, and don't leave debt for your children. What I mean by that, make sure that when you pass on, and because you might be able be able to stand $500,000 worth of debt, and I'm talking about good debt, people. And I think, and I want to say, I think college degrees, unless you want to fight me on it, is somewhat decent debt. Excuse me. However, so if we're talking about less than 3 4%, and the inflation it's higher now, but it was at 7%, to put this thing off for as long as possible and just paying them, the minimum, it kind of makes sense. Going back to, but don't leave it for your kids now. When you pass, make sure you have your life insurance or something that's going to take care of all this debt, because while you might be able to handle 50, 75, 100, 200, $300,000 worth of debt, don't leave it to your kids. So make sure your life insurance at least takes care of your debt. Real quick tip. You know what I mean? Because you don't want your kids to be burdened with things and having to make decisions because we weren't properly prepared for it. You know,
Mm.
don't have your kids taking over your mortgage. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That house is getting sold, and it might be sold at the wrong time, right? Because it just happened to be at the wrong time in the market. So have something that's going to take care of your mortgage when you pass. So if you have a $200,000 mortgage, make sure you have $200,000 worth of insurance that can cover this mortgage. And when you look at it, and if you get it younger and you start to pre-plan these things, oh God, I'm giving a financial literacy lesson here. If you start to pre-plan these things, you're gonna see the accumulation of wealth that happens within your family, and it starts from you. Do not have your kids here doing fish fries for your death, and then and still don't even have enough money to cover, barely have enough money to cover funeral, and let alone to talk about the mortgage of $1,500-$1,700 that'll be upcoming the next month.
That's
If
right.
you if you're following me, then just say hello, and if you want to unfollow me like the lady because I told you something crazy, then go ahead and unfollow me because you can't be a part of my tribe if you don't understand the ABCs of it. And if you need help with all that, you're looking at some brothers that can help you. That's what Community Beacon
You're
was
right.
created for.
You're right. You're right. That's a powerful statement that you said, especially about that insurance. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. I just wrote an insurance policy for my youngest daughter. Let me tell you, she's 17. She's 17 years old, right? She just turned 17. Let me tell you how much this $1 million policy costs her monthly. Take a guess, Mike. Take a guess, Anna.
17. It's how many millions?
$1 million
1 million?
policy.
$1 million policy?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna
Yeah,
go up above $1 million.
right.
It's
I,
gonna
I'm
go way above $1 million.
I guess it depends on what kind of insurance
It's
was
an
it?
it's an IUL. IUL.
What's
A
that stand
TFF
for?
IUL. It's an
What's it stand for?
index universal life
Is there a
insurance.
is there a cash value to it?
Cash value.
Okay, so I'm gonna think about 50-60 bucks.
You got it, man. Nail on the head. $51. Now listen, I had her buy it. Max out $871 a month. What you were talking about, Mike, that's deep. I mean, she's going to be able to be a millionaire, 10 years. She leave it alone, she'll be much more higher than that. But she can use the money.
We had jobs that I know I had a job at 17. I was making money at 17 years old.
Yeah.
Right. So if you would have told me back then just to put away $51, you know what I mean? If we could put away $51 in order to it's a no-brainer, right? Like when you think about because the amount of stuff that I spent that didn't, for $50 a month, I probably I know what I spent. I'm thinking about it right now. So it's like, it's a
but
no-brainer.
listen, Mike, like I can teach somebody who's 40 years old how to get that same exact policy. And with the knowledge that they have at 40 years old, because my daughter, she's still got to grow into this, she's just following what her dad says. I'm proud of her. But I can teach somebody who's 40 years old how to get the same policy, or at least something that's close to it, and max that thing out so that they can do that,
Right.
in 5 years or 7 years or whatever, so you could be at 40 years old and just starting now, like we were talking about the best time to plant an oak tree, 100 years ago, the next best time, or red oak, next best time is today. Best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. You missed it. But the next best time is today. Start where you are. I just like that you said that because so many people don't even understand the power of an insurance policy, because they only think about it for the death benefit. But, now we're talking about wealth benefit, developing and building wealth, long-term wealth, because we don't understand the compound effect of what we're paying in interest rates. And that's what you were just giving everybody was a lesson in interest rates when you started talking about the schools. If you're paying 1.7% interest rate, you need to get out a financial calculator. I'm not that good just yet, but I understand exactly what he's saying. 1.7%. I don't know. I'm paying as little as possible to that thing, if anything at all. I'm gonna ride that way out like Zorro. You
I,
know,
I,
it, it doesn't
bro,
make
so
sense, Mike. It don't make sense
it,
for me
it
to
it don't
pay it.
it don't make I so that's my opinion. Right now, I'm gonna put that on record. I think it was fiscally irresponsible for you to pay it. Okay, so let's go past that. So that's the financials part of it, right? That's just a thought process of going down these numbers and
But
I'm welcome
Mike,
that.
Mike,
No,
it's
no,
not just your
no,
opinion.
no,
You're
no,
right, man. You're
no,
like
no. I
right,
can't.
right, right.
No. You go because once again, I think a lot of it depends on the person's risk
Your
aversity.
policy.
Risk aversity
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people who are averse to having any kind of debt. Like it's people who are like, I don't, because they can't, they mentally their mindset. And I've run into a couple of these people where they just don't want it. Like they're just like, you could tell them, listen, I'll give you this mortgage. It's $100, whatever. It's $100 a month, blah blah blah, whatever it is, or 1% mortgage. Some people will be like, oh, well, it's a no brainer. There's some people who are like, listen, I don't want to owe nobody anything. And then you got people who quote, historical books and biblical books where they say a debt is bondage, et cetera, et cetera. So you have all these different things. That's fine. I'm not here to go back and forth with somebody's risk aversity, right? It's almost like saying if you can handle $100,000 debt, like that's nothing. Like you got people. I had a mentor who every month he had to pay $400,000. That's what he owed. And when he told me that, I was just like, $400,000. Like it was just like, I don't know if I want to be responsible for paying $400,000 a month, but he was. I say that to say this. That's the financial side of it. But then we got to go back on this other side of it, which I think is like the moral, ethical situation of these student loans. Is that what a lot of these student loans held people back from? And I want the people who are having their student loans to be canceled, this $10,000, $20,000, to really start to think about going back to the life insurance, going back to buying houses or whatever it is, to start thinking about what you're going to do with that money. Because this essentially is a gift if you were paying your student loans. And let's say each 10,000 was about $100 a month, right? So let's say, so if you get up to 20,000, you got $200 a month. The brother just told you about a $51 plan. The brother just told you about, if you're 40, things and ways that you can get into certain things that'll give you cash that you can attach cash value to. I have a joke for Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle. So if anybody wants to get in contact with them, so I can give them the joke, and I'm not going to tell it to anybody. I'll probably tell it to the brother off air. But I have a joke for these two brothers because of the way that they can do. They have comedy and they can put social commentary with it. It's a great joke. All I want to say is this: that you've been given something. If you fall 27 million Americans who are within this because I think you can't make more than 125,000. Guys, remember, oh, what about the people who make over 125,000? It's only 8 to 10% of Americans who make over 125,000. So if you make over 125,000, or if you're married, to up to 250,000. So if you're married, if you're married, this is when marriage definitely helps. You get to make up to 250,000. You can take advantage of this as well. So I said all that to say this: if my brother, if we both were given rocks to carry around in our bag, and someone gave me the knowledge, or some kind of way I fell into a way where that rock fell out of my bag, or I was able to take the rock out of my bag because my hands were, longer, or whatever the case may be. But my brother's over here struggling with a rock, and I'm able to alleviate his pain just as a human being. I'm going back to me having to pay it in taxes. Why wouldn't I do that? And then I further went along the lines of thinking, like, of all of the tax shelters and loopholes and deferments and a lot of information that some people aren't privy to or necessarily have access to, or aren't able to, that we have, that other people are paying for, the corporate incentives and the corporate taxes, incentives, etc., that are being given away, etc., etc. Why wouldn't you give it to your fellow person? You understand what I mean? So there's like this whole ethical, moral thing, and I don't want to come off as being self-righteous. Like I said, I understand the pain of a person who just paid off their loan last month, or who paid it off period, or who didn't take out loans and worked 2, 3 jobs to make it through school because they just didn't want to have that loan on them when they left. Kudos to you, and I think that I'm glad that happened. But now we're screaming out unfair for the people who are able to take advantage of this and could perhaps put it to good use, who had this thing hanging over their head and now it's taken off of their head. Like it's mind-boggling to me about this sign of times. And I even had someone who said that if you took advantage of it, they would expect no less because this is a unconscious or unconscious, they said, generation. And I said, well, can you explain that to me? I was curious. And the response was, because they're selfish. You're selfish for taking advantage of this opportunity. And I just can't see it that way. You know what I mean? I can't see it saying, oh, I'm not going to take advantage of this because that would be selfish. It just doesn't make any sense. There's something so much further. There's so much more to it than just money and taxes, right? We're talking about the ability to take to unburden people. 27 million people of people that you see. So I don't know. There's my thing. That's my thought process on it.
I tell you what, like, okay, so think about this. Think about this in reference to what you were just saying. I was thinking about this for quite some time, what you were talking about from the very beginning. My initial response is like, it's almost like crabs in a bucket. I'm stuck down here. You coming back with me?
Spoke about that yesterday a little bit. Yeah.
Think about this. So there was a man who was crippled. This is a biblical story. Man that was crippled, and there was this pool. And every year at a specific time, it was said that an angel would come and touch the pool, and whoever was the first person inside of the pool would be healed. And it was an annual thing. Everybody came because everybody wanted the opportunity. Now, granted, I wasn't there, but I can only imagine that if the news spread in this neighborhood where I live, that we could go over here to Peanut Island, and everybody that jumped in the intercoastal at a specific time, the first person that touched the water will be healed. That every single year we would have an influx, not just of people that live in this neighborhood, but people that live in neighboring cities, as well as people flying and
they fly in for that.
And tenting on the beaches and illegal spots just so that they can be there to jump in that water. Because if the opportunity presents itself, the average individual will take the opportunity to better themselves. The concern comes when you say, well, the opportunity is only for 20-year-olds to 22-year-olds. Now I got an issue because yesterday I just turned 23. Now I got an issue because, I'm not 20 yet. I'm only 19. And the doctor says I'm going to die in 3 weeks and my birthday's 3 months away. So all of a sudden I have an issue because there's a hang up inside of me. Well, listen to this story, when the opportunity came, a crippled man came up and Jesus happened to be walking by, and the crippled man, actually it was blind man came up, and Jesus, looked at him, and he heard that Jesus walking by, started crying out his name. And he asked him, and he started talking with him. He said, every single time I try to get into the water, somebody gets in front of me. My whole point is this. Opportunities come for our benefit. These are miracles in our lifetime. Now, we can give the credit to the president because that's generally what we do. We as people, we play the politics. We play political roles. We pick out the hero of our lifetime. And once we pick that hero out, sometimes in some minds, that hero can't do any wrong. And in some people's minds, we make them the villain, and that villain can't do no right. And sometimes we just like whatever. But we pick these people out, we put them in a position where they either can't do no wrong, they can't do no right, or we could care less what they do. But the bottom line is that things that they are doing, the scripture teaches us that God will have his way in the hurricane. He'll have his way in the storm. It also teaches that the heart of the king is as water inside God's hands. So he can turn it any which way he wants. For those of y'all who believe in the scriptures, think about what he did with Pharaoh and how he told Moses, don't worry, I'm sending you to this man to say, let my people go, but he won't do it. Remember the rules. He will not do it because I will harden his heart. I'm not going to let him do it because I want my people to be out with inside the magnitude of what I do. They need to remember this. So they're going to go through struggle. And when they finally exit, it's going to be an exodus. It's going to be prolific. It's going to be a life changer. It's going to be something that you're going to set your calendar to in memorial, because you're going to tell your children and your grandchildren what had happened. Sometimes issues come up in the midst of life where there are memorial moments where something so great has happened that you have to set the calendar. It's just like COVID, those 2 years that were so dark. And there's still a lot of COVID going on, but they were so dark that you had to reset your calendar. We call them COVID years. When we talk to people, we're like, oh, I haven't seen you in a couple of, hold on, the COVID years. It's been about 4 or 5 years since I've seen you. Because we forget those 2 years. Because of the COVID time, we forget time lost its space for a moment. For a moment, the concern of living was so powerful, so prolific, that it embodied everybody's time, and it changed the course of time. It changed the trajectory of a nation, of a world of people. So when you have something like this and the people are fighting this way and fighting that way, it's like, because I agree with you, brother. It's like, listen, if it ain't my time to be dipped in the water, to be healed of my infirmity, let the other brother go. Because when my time comes, I don't need anybody holding me back from getting in the water. Yep. My time may not be that time. But just like this young man this older man was looking up and he heard Jesus come by, all of a sudden his time became present. And he was dumped in the water, dropped in the water, and he was able to be healed. And so that's kind of the way I think about it, bro. What you say?
No, that was that. I wish I would have had that story would have came to mind when I was talking to people yesterday.
Wasn't time.
Because it wasn't. It wasn't the time, because they were telling me that God didn't. Because they said God didn't do that. I said, well, in my mind, I was like, well, did God do it or did God allow it? Like, which one you want to? Yeah, which one you want to go with? It's up to you. Either way, here we are. Here we are, and there's a lot of decent people that I know that this is going to affect them in a positive way, and it's just for me to to expound a lot of knowledge, which is I think is an excellent segue to this entire conversation to what we'll be talking about next month.
Yeah.
So next month, guys, as we head into September, man, shouts out to, man, appreciate you guys for rocking with us this entire month that we spoke about time. I honestly feel like this was some groundbreaking stuff. So if you're catching this little snippet of conversation that we had, I really want to ask you to go back and check out the past 3 weeks, because it's been some really paradigm shifting conversations that we've had thus far. So heading into September, what we'll be talking about is what we should be doing. Yeah. What we will, I might even change it to what we will be doing, because one thing about us is that we put things into action. So it's like, and I love that today for me was a huge closeout period for a lot of different things. So now I'm heading into this. I almost feel like I'm heading into September with a somewhat clean slate. Like it's just okay. The foundation has been laid. I close out what needed to be closed out. It's time to move on to the next step. So we said what we will
That's
be
it.
doing. So
Yeah.
what we will be doing moving forward, planning for the future. We just spoke about some stuff. You heard a brother kind of drop a little bit of information in regards to writing policies out. So we got to check out and reach out. We'll definitely delve into that next month. We definitely going to talk about real estate next month in regards to that. Let's talk about planning, proper
And
planning,
creative.
because to be honest with you, next month is really, we should be planning. This should be like the new year for most businesses.
Yeah.
Like September is like the new year. Like you get October 1st is really that is the last quarter, and last quarter should be in preparation of January. Last quarter is when you start to ramp up your marketing, start to ramp up your information, ramp up your giving. Start to get moving towards that end, and not only that, but also your taxes. People, you shouldn't be waiting till January 28th or 3rd, January 1st, whenever you get your little W-2 back to plan for your taxes. That stuff should be happening now. You should be reaching out to your accountant now. So a lot of these different things. Listen, we didn't even talk about this, but it's just coming to me. Like this is the time. It's the perfect timing for us to get into these type of conversations, because one thing about us is that we're reaching next week will be 52. We're not going to be continue talking about the same thing over and over again. We cannot be correcting the same thing over and over again. We should have already learned our lesson, and we should be moving into the direction of growth. Moving forward was one of the things we spoke about, but we have to be progressing and growing, because if we're not, like we spoke about last week, we're dying. If you're
Yeah.
not progressing, you're not growing, you're dying, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. Planning, creation, and growth. Yeah. That's what we're moving into. Planning, creation, and growth. That sounds like a good overall theme right there, brother. Planning, creation, and growth. Not just what we're planning, but what we're creating and how we're growing. It's all about the projection, guys, and the action that follows afterwards. If you want to make anything manifest, you got to do them both. Yeah. That's it for me, brother. You want me to close out?
Well, let me put this up, because I did say I do it. Was how do I put this up? Yeah. Let me. There you go. Hustler's testimony. Check out Beethoven. I want to put up Lou's stuff as well. So I want to. All right, did it disappear? No, it's in private chat. Let me put up Lou's stuff as well. So we got Hustler's testimony, guys. Check out Beethoven, man. I'm kind of jealous about the cameras. He got cameras that could look at pimples on your face.
Yeah. I mean, the man put the work in for what he had. So it's beautiful. The whole setup is beautiful, man.
He's over at Podcast Plus over there in Rivera Beach. So support your local businesses. That's Beethoven. He has his Hustler's testimony. He runs Podcast Plus. Go check him out. And then, of course, we got Lou Palm Beach Protection Group, Lou Moroto. I'm telling you, I told Lou. I think I told you too, because you do the fire safety things, as you were doing that as well. And I'm like, with you guys' experience, you all don't charge enough. You know me. I'm like, y'all don't charge enough. I hear what you say. You don't charge enough. Lou, I don't know. Lou, you don't charge. Whatever you charge, you don't charge enough. If you want to go, a professional that's going to teach. And what if you pay for anything? If you pay a lot of money to have a professional, an expert in anything, you definitely want it to be gun safety. If you're thinking about keeping guns in the house, or you're thinking about just getting into it, or trying to understand and figure it out, you got to check it out. So go, guys, go check out. They didn't pay me for this. Go check out Lou Moroto, Palm Beach Protection Group, of course, Beethoven, the Hustler's Testimony over at Podcast Plus. All local businesses, all professionals. You're gonna get some real quality work. I vouch for all of that. So I think that's all I got to say about that. We can go ahead and close it out, man. This has been time well spent.
I love it. All right, ladies, gentlemen, all those that are watching, whether live or on the replay, we definitely thank you for being a part of this 51st episode. All right, we closed out our 50th last week, And next week is going to be our 52nd, which means we close out our revolving year. These are a couple of weeks of closing out this month. And next week we close out our revolving year, our rolling year. And so this is a very proud moment for us. We're definitely glad, we lasted this long, but at some point in time, it wasn't about lasting anymore. It was about thriving. And we just hope and pray that all of you all who have enjoyed this process with us, that you have moved from surviving to thriving. If you haven't, don't worry. Stay tuned, because we're going to start to get deeper and deeper into how to thrive. And next month is the month for you, when we're going to start to dig into planning. We're going to dig into creation. We're going to dig into growth. And this is the perfect time to do it. As brother Mike had said, this is the time to start thinking about those things so that you can be well prepared for the new year. For those of y'all that are running businesses, and for those of y'all that are at home, this is a great time for you to gather everything together so that when the W-2 shows up, that is the only thing that you need. That's a powerful thing. Most of us, it's like, where are the W-2s? And then we got the W-2s, like, but where's the stuff for the school? And where's the receipts? And we are not ready. Hey, that's me. I'm talking to myself. I ain't never ready. Thank God for Kathy Simmons. God bless her soul.
Shout out to Kathy Simmons.
Oh man, double time. Anna, you should have put the name up on.
That's what I was about to say. Why we didn't put Kathy's name?
I don't know. That won't be something special. Y'all don't know how y'all see how bouncy I am and how fiery I am. She helped keep me grounded, because boy, I tell you what, I'd be like an eagle soaring in the sky. I might not come back down and see nobody. Anyway, we are out of here. Please remember, whether you're looking on Michaeldseville YouTube, or you hit him up and DM him on his Gmail, or you check him out on Facebook, or you catch him on LinkedIn, or you go to his Instagram, or whether you do the same thing for me, or even touch us on TikTok, we want you to stick with us. Follow, subscribe, like, love, send us hugs, send us DMs, get with us, but make sure you hit that notification button whenever you are on YouTube. Bing, so you know when we're going live. We love you, and peace.